And a lot of stuff going on here that's really not that good. And really, it's actually bad, immoral messaging that you might walk away from thinking like, this is good because you feel so good with it. I'm Andrew Levy, and this is The American Dream. Previously, I spoke about The Lion King, how The Lion King is such a good movie, and what makes it such a good movie, that it's forwarding a good. I so enjoyed watching the bad get taken over. Now, to Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins kind of goes against that idea. The idea that because the story is so good, that the movie is so good, because the story is so good and all that stuff. That's not really true with Mary Poppins. You might walk away from thinking like, this is good because you feel so good with it. You're attached to the good of it. You're attached to the art. You're attached to the talent. You're attached to the singing, the dancing, the cartoons in there, the people being alive alongside talking to cartoons and cartoons doing stuff with each other and people upside down on ceilings having tea parties and Mary Poppins flying with her umbrella and whatever magical mojo stuff's going on there that just looks phenomenal. It's like looking at an amazing piece of art that's not a moral good thing. There's nothing moral about a piece of art. But because there's bad messaging in there, you might actually think, because of how good it makes you feel, that everything in this movie must be good. But that's not so, and that's what I want to get into here. I want to go into the details of this movie, what's actually going on, and is this really good? What is actually good? What is not good? You got the children, you got the mother, you got the father, and you're probably looking at that thinking like, wow, what a phenomenal house. Nice size house. They got a mother and a father, and they got all those things going on there. You might be thinking like, this is the farthest from a broken home. That's what you might think that. You might think if someone were to ask you, would you call this home a broken home? You would think, what are you, crazy? Broken home? A broken home is when the parents are divorced. This, a broken home, you must be out of your mind. So, I must be out of my mind. And I'll explain to you how I'm out of my mind by explaining how it actually is a broken home. So, you got the father. The father, he's a banker, and he promotes himself in the movie as ruler of the house, king of the castle. Literally, he says that in the song that he sings. He says, I'm the king of the castle here. This is whatever it is. And he demands and expects from his wealth, what he's paying for, that everybody in that house is going to do everything he wants. Get everything cleaned, food ready, food made, children gets put to bed, tables get set, whatever it is, clothes laid out for him, clothes cleaned for him. Actually being a king in his house. Is that a father or is that a king? That is the role, it seems to me, of a king. Meaning, we are now missing a father figure in this home. And as we said before, a broken home is missing parents. It has a mother or a father. If they're not going to be the figure they ought to be, then the child really just has what they have. They don't have the proper figure they need at all. And the kid's even more screwed. So at least there is the literal mother and father there. That is something. But I would argue that it's more of a broken home just because the father's behaving as a king and not an actual father. And then the mother, what's the mother doing? The mother is a suffragette. She's forwarding feminism. And she's not being a mother. She's basically deciding, well, I don't have to work. My husband's a banker. He makes a lot of money. And he's providing for everything. So I'm going to do my feminism thing. And the kids are being raised by the nanny and the maid and all that stuff. And they're getting everything given to them. They don't need to be responsible for anything. And these kids, because they're in a broken home and everything's all crazy, my conclusion is they're running away because they're searching for things. They're searching for things that'll give them meaning and feel good. The nanny, at this part of the movie, quits. She says, I quit. These kids ran away. The kids were out of the house, where these kids were. And the nanny said, 4th time already. These kids just ran away and I'm not having it anymore. You assume that the nanny there wants to be there to take care of the kids, to bond with the kids, to discipline the kids, to do whatever it is. The nannies, unfortunately, they're being paid to do the parents' job. It's an unfortunate situation. The parents should be able to do that job, where I would think, especially in their situation, the mother should be able to full-time be a mother, and the father come to work and then come home and be the father when he comes home. But that's not happening here. What's really happening is they got their staff doing everything for them, and it's just because they're not being provided for what they ought to be provided from their parents, they're acting out. They're doing things that kids who are going through a rough environment will be doing. You might be thinking, but look at all the goods they have. So what? You can throw all the money in the world at people. If they don't understand value, they're not going to appreciate value. They're not. You can give them all the money and tell them, explain to them, all this money you have can provide you with things of value, of worth, that can forward good. What is the worth? What is the human worth of the thing? That's what's missing here. We're missing the value of us as people. What our value inside of us is. And these kids don't know that. They don't have that. They don't understand there's something to grow and become great and shine bright. Become something that would be like, I would say, a flower with a petals on it. I would say, like, these children are part of a flower. They're going to get married, they're going to have their kids, and they're like in the center of that flower. And their job, the parents' job, is to water and plant them and make them into that. Form them into that flower, where they're like that sunflower, let's say, like in the middle, they're that big thing in the middle, holding up all the things. And then each and every one of them grow to be that big sunflower, the thing in the middle of the sunflower. That's what they all grow to become. And sunflowers, they look really nice. I guess they smell good. I don't know much about sunflowers. I don't know much about flowers. But that's what they should be doing. They're not doing that. They're kind of just maybe letting them survive, perhaps doing whatever they can to survive, but eventually they're just going to die, and they're not going to really be much of a sunflower. They're not really going to be much of anything. They're just going to be whatever they're going to be. It's going to be broken. It's going to be tearing apart, knocking down. They don't really have the family. The home they're in is not that sunflower. The home they're in is some random petals just maybe trying to get by. But at the end of the day, they're not promoting a good in this home. It's not doing any good. Now, to top everything off, they need a new nanny. The children decide, we have a list of things we want, of qualifications for the new nanny. Here's what we demand. Here's what we want. And the father looks at it. He says, nope, nonsense. The father actually understands that this list the children ask for, someone to just play with, to be my friend, to be these things. He understands, no, that's not going to do. My children actually need someone who's going to be a leader, someone who's actually going to promote the ideals of responsibility and things that are of value and worth, and for these children to actually grow up and understand these things. The father seems to have a mental understanding of it, but he's missing the essence to convey, to actually lead by example, to demonstrate that, because he's living as the king. He's living as someone that is completely detached from reality, from the real world, from whatever it is he wants from those children. Presumably, if he's just worth whatever a king is worth, those kids are going to grow up to be worth the same. They just need to worry about knowing how to order their servants around. That's all they really need to be raised to do. But that's not really what's going on here. What's going on here is a father actually cares about teaching from a leader the kids to actually become leaders as well. That's what seems to be going on here. And then Mary Poppins comes around. They finally go out for they go through that list. They say the list is nonsense. The father says, I want the good, whatever it is. They go through the maids, the nannies. And Mary Poppins seems to be the only nanny there. All the other nannies got blown away by the wind from Mary Poppins or whatever it is. Bunch of more magical art stuff that looked very cool. Seeing a bunch of humans getting blown away by wind and literally just like flying away. Then Mary Poppins comes flying in on her umbrella. And it's like, wow, it looks really, really good. It's really cool seeing her. It looked really good. It was a good piece of art. The talent and the art in this movie is what makes the movie really good. And what does she do? She comes in with the list the children had. She somehow got her hands on it. The father ripped it up. And now she has her hands on this list. And she's going through the qualifications from the list that the father said already before, this list is nonsense. I'm not having this list. Now Mary Poppins goes through it, and all of a sudden, she gets the job. The father did not once stop for a second and say, here's what I want you to be able to do. Here's the qualifications I want from you. If you can do these things, you are qualified. They went over the children's list. And this is significant. This is very relatable to today. Today, a lot of parents are raising their kids with this idea that, yeah, give in to the parents, don't let them whine, whatever. They're going to grow up at some point. I even heard this going on when I was a kid. Parents talking about, yeah, they'll just grow up and adulthood will just hit them in the butt or something. I don't know. It's the idea it's just going to happen. And as we could tell in the world today, has not been really working out. And you see here, the message here is really given to the children, and that's how the children should be raised. That is really bad. Now the children are getting the leader the father was talking about getting. The leader is now what the children said they want, and the children claim that they're just going to be good and hunky-dory and all that stuff as long as they get the nanny that they want. And they got the nanny they want. That's exactly what happened. But that's not reality. In reality, the kids are still going to act up. The kids are still going to be doing whatever it is they're doing. This is not really forwarding. There's little bits and pieces here of her being disciplinary. It's not like as though she's not firm and somewhat disciplinary about things. But overall, the messaging from Mary Poppins is basically everything's a game. You can just snap your fingers and the whole room will be cleaned up. And essentially you can be able to get away with doing whatever you want. And overall, it's just, that's what she's conveying. She somehow gets to the point where she's having a whole conversation with Mr. Banks, and at the end of the whole thing, basically he quits his job, and he's jumping for joy after quitting his job. He feels so good. And now we got children who don't understand responsibility, apparently just like to have their play date with them. So because they have the play date they like, they're sticking around and not running away. They're not being told, I guess, disciplinary things as presumably the other ones were actually telling them and trying to make them do, and the kids were running away not wanting to listen, and they didn't know how to discipline these children who are acting out because their parents are being neglectful as parents. And that's what's happening. That's what I would think it would be happening here, is the kids' behavior is a reaction from the bad parenting, because the parents are just wanting to do what they want to be doing. This is not a family unit. This is just a bunch of people existing in the same place, living in the same place, that happen to be biologically related to each other. That's what this home is, okay? The mother's doing her thing. She's a suffragette. The father's doing his thing. He's a banker and a ruler of a house. And then the children are doing their own thing with the maids and the nannies. This is not a... Where's the family structure here of the actual biological family? Find this for me, because the only thing I can see that brings them together as a family unit is the walls surrounding them in the same home that they're all living in. So as I said, they're just a bunch of biological people, biologically related people just existing in the same place, essentially, is what's really going on here. And Mary Poppins doesn't seem to be doing anything to forward the idea that perhaps he should be a family, although they make it look like she did. And that's the trick. This is the idea that a lot of people have these days. It's been going on for a long time. Promote the image of the thing, but not the essence of the thing. That's what's going on here. They have the image of the father quitting his job and them all deciding, let's have some family time together, flying kites. Now, they're all flying kites together. The father doesn't have a job. Presumably the mother is still a suffragette, going to be moving on, or going on with what she's been doing. And now they're just having a good time flying kites together. And there's Mary Poppins nicely flying away because her job was done. What was done? What was changed? What has become better? What was the good that was forwarded over here? All I can tell you that was good from this movie, that was objectively, that would make this a good movie, is all that art and talent. Think about the story. I want you to find me the parts in the story that was good moral messaging. Yeah, there was some firm disciplining here and there, whatever it is, from Mary Poppins saying, stand up straight or something. I don't know. Elbows off the table. Some little nonsense stuff. But overall, she was showing them a good time. They were singing. They were dancing. They were doing whatever it was that was fun and games. Life here was about fun and games and not responsibility. And this is not the real life. And the messages being forwarded being that is immoral. So the conclusion is the talent, the art is incredible, phenomenal. I would say this movie is just as good as The Lion King because of that. It's that good a piece of art, that it's as good as forwarding an incredibly amazing story. But it's not an incredibly amazing story. The story in of itself, it wasn't a weak story. It wasn't a good story. It was the story was It didn't really matter. The story didn't make a difference. Think about the story. If you take away all the art and all the talent, let's break down the story. Children misbehaving, nanny gets fired, they hire a new nanny, nanny takes care of the children, father quits his job, they I don't know. So we're getting rid of all the singing and all the talent and all that stuff. So we're not even going to talk about that stuff because that's just essentially the nanny in the real world is just basically they're playing games with them. So they're just like, let's say, I don't know, playing Monopoly the whole time. Fly kites together as a family after the father quit his job. And the end. There's nothing here. This is really empty. It's really, there's no essence. The whole movie's lacking essence in every capacity, going from the structure of the family that is not a family because they're missing the essence of a family. A family needs its essence. They need to have a proper mother, a proper father, a proper something or another. There's nothing of that here. So at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. This movie is just lacking all that stuff. And now we have an example of a movie that is a really phenomenal movie based on the art and that's talented and that is not forwarding messaging that's actually good messaging. That's my point here. And this is significant. This is important. This means now that there could be movies that you might think you're learning something good from, but you're being tricked because of the good art and talent. And I'm going to go through other movies that may be like that, and from there we're going to actually sort all these things out. Next, I want to get into talking about going through Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd is I find that to be an incredible movie. The performance and everything from the movie was an incredible movie, and that's what I want to go through next. How in Sweeney Todd, justice is actually served, and the bad guy isn't actually, or the good guy, or whatever it is. That's to be seen next time. All the best, and thanks for watching.